Man, I can hear you. I don't know why are you sitting there saying 1 2 1 2, old man. Like, what is wrong? What is your
I'm
pro?
just checking the mic,
Oh
man. Just checking
my
the mic before I
goodness!
drop it.
Before you drop it on what? Nothing. Before you drop it on what? Oh my goodness, man! Like, what is? Anyway, what's going on, everybody? Happy holidays, whatever you decide to celebrate, Thanksgiving or whatnot. For those of you that are listening this week, um,
Absolutely.
got a decent one, another decent one for you today. But first, I guess we can ask this guy in shambles over here who needs a walker how he's doing. What's going on,
Oh,
old man?
all is well. All is well. And I look forward to the topic and educating the think they know, the think they knows out there, and the think they know across from me. So,
Hmm. Yeah. We'll see about that. We'll see about that. I feel like you're gonna be lost in the sauce on this one. But
probably.
but for those of you out there, today we are talking basically the freedom of speech. Free to speak, providing your input. I mean, it just covers so many different things. Like it really does. And I mean, I guess for those that don't know, even though you should, if you've lived here in the U.S., you've taken history classes. It is part of the First Amendment, which includes like freedom of press, assembly, right to petition the government, right to petition the government regardless of grievances. Excuse me. Um, so that's what it all incorporates, and you should know that from your history classes if your teachers were good enough to instill that lesson upon you.
Yes. And, you know, even today, especially, people are speaking out more. So, absolutely, you should know your rights and your abilities and what limitations that might be out there pertaining to that
Right.
freedom.
And it's very interesting to say the least on this because of everything that has really been going on. I guess the most recent thing would be the Kanye, the Kanye West, like Kyrie,
Kyrie, yeah, the
all
basketball
that.
player.
Yeah, and then with Dave Chappelle talking about it on Saturday Night Live, um, I feel like we're kind of in a weird spot where like people want to promote freedom of speech, but then when people do freedom of speech, it's like they're shocked, and I feel like it's for it's seen a lot more. I feel like it's being seen a lot more in our culture where we're not having that expression to speak freely on things without having some sort of penalty or somebody the somebody looking over that person or whatever being trying to monitor what they're saying that trying to from exposing truths or what have you. um so I feel like it's a lot more for us, but don't get me wrong, I've seen a lot of the other side where somebody would say something and they're speaking their mind and then they get absolutely destroyed via either Twitter or any kind of other social media platform, and then they're just deplatformed from it. Um, but I think it does have a heavier weight for us than it does for anybody else. Mm. Mm-hmm.
I- You know, you're correct, and it's a little bit more. I want to add a little bit more to that. When you and first of all, we got to realize that that was in place for a reason because how important it is that you have the right to speak or have an opinion. that you can express without repercussions. You know, that that was important that you had to write that down. You had to put that in as, law or a freedom. You had to put that in writing. That's how important it is. But everybody's not going to feel the way you feel about a subject. Nobody's going to feel the same. And when even when it's against, black, brown, or other groups, people still have the right to voice their opinion. And you have the right to disagree. But you shouldn't have you shouldn't have to worry about. No, you are responsible for what you say.
That
Now
is
don't
correct.
get me wrong.
Yeah, you may have
Don't
freedom
get
of
me
speech,
wrong.
but you still have the
But
freedom
you
to
are
get
responsible,
your
and
butt
the
whooped.
and the consequences, yeah, the consequences behind it. But you shouldn't be crucified for what you believe, in the sense that you can't speak it without being demified, or well, well, let me put it like this: you can say whatever you want to say. Just be man or woman enough to accept the backlash from what you say. But what I was worried about, and things I've seen, is situations where somebody express themselves and then they lose their job, they lose their profession because they said something against a particular group or whatever, their opinion about something. That's a slippery slope. It is that infringing on this right, or is this, like you're saying, okay, if you say this, you can say it, but you're going to lose your job, you're going to lose your profession. So what is it your opinion worth to express it? And then now, since you got a platform that you can express it to the masses, is the juice really worth the squeeze?
Yeah, I mean, before it was before
Or it was, but
before everything was recorded and saved in the history books. Yeah, like I mean, as far as like Twitter and stuff like that, I mean, you could say what you want to say back in the day, and then next day, the only a handful of people that were there be like, "Oh, did you hear what so and so said?" But now it's just you say it or you type it out there, and it's out there. It's out there for good. People can screenshot it, save it, and do whatever they want with it now. So you got to be, depending on where you're at. I mean, it could still. It is such a weird thing because you could say
yes.
something and it comes back 10 years from now to haunt you or whatnot, which I think is kind of weird. Because
Because
people,
people evolve.
right?
People evolve. People have a different opinion. You got more information. With the information that they were provided, they made a statement or they made their opinion.
Or they can have
Now,
a reactionary action in the heat of the moment or whatever, and then find out that that might not have been the best reaction to make, and they could be remorseful for it, and they still, it's just really weird. So I don't know. I don't know. It's just a weird dynamic with the whole freedom of speech thing. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What else were you saying?
no, no, I was just looking at, does it matter what uniform you're wearing, and based on what you say? If you're, you know, African American saying one thing, or black, brown, you say one thing, or if you're white, or if you're Hispanic, if you say it, does the color of your skin dictate what you can say about a particular thing? In which I feel it does. That the repercussions are different depending on who's saying it.
Well, I mean, yeah. And let's call the elephant in the room. Minorities get away with saying a lot of stuff to each other because we're kind of in that same boat with each other as far as like things happening to our group of people that we can relate to in some degree. As far as being in poverty, whether it be poverty, low income areas. You grow up together, and you're kind of like family, even though your families may not want you to be families, but you're close in that sense. So somebody of a Hispanic descent might say something to somebody of African American descent that African American descent would say to each other, but the person of African American descent will let the Hispanic person say that to him and let it slide because they're seen like equals in a sense because of maybe their upbringing or something, or they've known each other for a long time. They've known each other from
But
children, and I'm not saying it's justified, but what I'm getting at is that those kind of things tend to slide because of the circumstances that are around those groups of people.
I agree. So it does matter.
Yeah, I mean it does matter, but it's not like anybody really react. I have yet to see somebody of our ethnicity react to somebody like Hispanic, like saying the N word to us. It's like, oh, what's up, man? It was just like it's just I don't. Maybe that's just my age group.
No, I kind of
But
agree.
it's
I've
just
seen
like
that.
we're just like, all right, cool, whatever. We just keep it moving. We just say it to each other. It's like, I understand it has a different meaning when you're saying it to each other, but like I said, that goes back to what I was saying about us being all minorities and having that understanding or that background that we may have been brought up in or whatever.
Yeah, I get that, but I don't. I, for me, I just don't like that term minority. But I get what
I
you're
mean, I'm just
saying.
trying to say it
I know
overall
what you're saying. I know
blanket.
what you're
Yeah.
saying. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. But I just put it out there personal.
Mm.
I don't like that term. Let's use something else. But
I mean, I don't want to have
but
to sit there and name every single demographic. It's just like I'd rather just say a blanket statement because that's usually how it goes.
that's right. That's right. But the thing with that, so when color matters or what ethnic group matters when you make a statement, the same thing could be said from another group of people, but taken totally different, even though they're saying the same thing. So this freedom of speech, I, I'm just looking at, I'm talking about political views. You could talk about political views are different. You could talk about um, sociological views are different, and depending on who's saying it, is how it's taken. Even though someone in the same demographic can say the same thing and it's not offensive. So freedom of speech is you, you got to tailor it to your audience.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you trying to talk to? Who are you trying to uh, connect with? So if you try to connect with the masses, you can't direct certain things. If you try to talk to a certain group, you have to, you know, conversate in a certain way that connects with that group. So you still can have the freedom of speech, but you got to know who you're talking to.
I mean, you just be a comedian and just call it a day and just work because I mean, that's the best way. That's the best way to get a lot of stuff across is just be a comic, talk about real world stuff, and then put a joke on it, put a spin on it to make it a joke. And that seems to get a lot of. It seems to you seem to get your point across a lot more when you're doing it that way than to try and speak on it in I guess in a debate or any kind of one-on-one or group setting. Well, I guess if you're a comic, you're still in a group setting, but I feel like those points get brought across more, even though there's still going to be people that aren't going to understand what you're talking about, regardless, because they might not have been, in the trenches with you or whatnot, so they have no idea. But I think what we as a group, I mean, there's really nothing we can't not speak on for the most part because we've all been here for a good amount of time to know everything that's going on. What I would say is that when someone talks, you should listen instead of trying to speak for the person or think you know what the person is coming from as far as like a background. Like try to understand the person first. Let them finish their thought process, or let if they want to talk about it, let them talk about it. Don't that would be my thing. Like because there's not really anything that we can't speak on as a collective. It's just more so people speaking for us instead of us doing it ourselves, and I think that's probably the biggest thing.
Um, and I get what you're saying. I was very concerned with when the level of let's say modern day racism was being expressed,
Mm,
and when that expression was, you know, for that racism, people were demanding censorship, shut it down, don't let them be able to uh, broadcast their agenda on social media or whatever. And then I looked at, and then you have to think about it. You can't demand censorship from one without creating an opportunity to censor yourself. So to keep the door open, you don't have to listen to whatever somebody else says. You don't have to agree with what somebody else's opinion, how they look at life or whatever. You don't have to. You don't have to support it. You don't have to watch it. You can turn it off. You can put the word out to encourage others not to listen to it. But don't fall into the trap of censorship where you can't you you're saying you're saying this is bad, and that people should respond to it the same way you feel about it, who puts it out there. What you need to do is say, hey, I disagree with that, don't listen to that, and this is why. You have that platform as well. You can support how you feel about something, but when you stop you when you start picking and choosing what is what is acceptable and what is not, it's all opinion, right? So don't you leave yourself open to be caught in that as well, because somebody could disagree with you and call for you to be censored, you to be cut off.
mm,
So let's not go to extremes when it comes to freedom of speech because you just like something. Even if they don't like me for the color of my skin or whatever I believe in, they can say whatever they want to say. But I need to find another way other than saying they should stop and not be able to say what they're saying. I need to put out information to say I disagree with this. This is why I disagree with it. And hopefully, you know, voice my opinion to reject or deflect what somebody else is saying. That's the only cautionary thing I want to put out there. Believe me, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear certain things, but that doesn't give me the right to stop that person from thinking and expressing how they feel.
Look, I understand you may not want to hear certain things. I'd rather somebody say what's on their chest so that way I know where they stand as a person than me finding out 10 years
That's why I'm
later.
saying you can't censor those
No,
people.
I know, but I'm saying, like, as far as you saying, there's things you don't want to hear. And I'm saying, I'd rather, if somebody was racist, I'd rather them say it to my
Right.
face or something like that, instead of them being,
Absolutely.
trying to be my friend, and I find out 5 years later it's like, oh, you something like that. I'd rather it be on Front Street at the beginning, so that way I would know who to deal with and who not to deal with.
But when you put censorship up there because somebody said something pertaining to that, are you getting the information that you would like to hear? Are
No,
you trying to say I don't want to hear that? So
you were saying you
they
don't want to hear that,
literally
but because I'd rather get the information I want to
I,
hear.
yeah, I want
But
to
yeah,
hear. They got the right to express that.
right.
And I have the right to refute it. Or I got the right to say, hey, I disagree with that, and this is why.
Or the right to put the pause on them. But that's neither.
No,
Hey, just like you
because
said,
somebody say
just
something,
like
right?
earlier, it's like you can say what you want to say, but you got to be man enough to get the repercussions. So,
That's right. That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
I'm just saying, you could. Hey, I'd rather you say it and it be on Front Street, and then you know what's going to happen afterwards. Than you sit there tippy toeing around the problem or around the subject.
That's
Um, go ahead. You about to say something?
no, no. You have to look at your profession as well. What do you do? Will your mindset and the way you think affect your profession?
Mm-hmm.
And if you willing to put your beliefs and your opinions out there that will affect that, then like you said, it's a consequence. Like I've been saying, it's a consequence for that.
Right. And so yeah, I mean, it does definitely come down to profession, but even then, there's still some that would say something that would be harmless to some, but then it's pitchforks and torches to others, and the pitchforks and torches are louder than the louder than the majority of people. Like, which would no big deal. I don't see this as a problem or whatever. And so that goes back to the whole cancel thing, but that's something I well know that actually that's a level of anger kind of thing. Never mind. That's not even like
The
it
cancel
just
culture, the
that's
cancel.
like the level of anger just blows my mind. It's one of those, and I don't know if this was on Family Guy. I forgot where I seen this, but there was it was a skit, and basically the person was like, "Hey, I'm mad at this. You should be mad too." And the person's like, "Well, I really don't care." And then they got fussed at, like, "I'm mad now too," or whatever. And so it was like a mob. It's basically like a mob mentality, and it's just really weird. Like, if you feel some kind of way about something, you shouldn't go out your way to make sure people feel the same way you do about the same thing, because not everybody's going to have that hive mind mentality. Like, I don't know, maybe expand your network and find people that may disagree or something like that. But I guess I don't. I just don't really like that whole. Well, I'm angry. You should be angry too.
Dude,
And
absolutely.
like,
I don't agree with that.
I'm not
No.
a bit. I'm not a fan of that, because then that it's like, what's the point? Because if you're angry about something, that is what I always say. That is a you problem. Like, it may not affect me. I may have I'm a different person. So
That's right.
we can talk about it, and but you should not be trying to influence me to be angry at the thing you're angry at. Now, of course, there. Don't get me wrong. There's different situations for that. Like, you're going to support your significant other, things like that, but you're still not going to be angry. Like, you're going to be like, if she's upset, you'd be like, what? Like, oh no, you know what I mean? Like, doing your support as your duty as a boyfriend, husband, significant other, whatever, to show support, but not be necessarily angry at the same thing, unless it's something egregious, of course. Um, but it's just really.
But who determines that? I'm just saying,
Mhm.
tack. Well, I'm looking at it like this. If I got this is how I evaluate stuff. People always have agendas. You got, all these groups, Black Lives Matters, different things like that.
Mm.
I'm going to look at the information and look at how you deal with every aspect of things, and I'll make my determination of what level of importance or significance that is. It's not based on somebody else.
Right.
It's not based because you feel that it is or whatever, or any group feel that it is that I'm
Mm.
going to take and just follow along.
Right.
And that mob, like you said, that mob mentality where you just try to get everybody to get riled up and angry, just like you, doesn't work with people who want information, who base things on facts, their interpretation of it, and they want the ability to look at the big picture and see the significance. Where are we going with this anger? What is this going to produce?
Mm.
You know, burning down buildings, rioting in the streets. That's not something I would want people to do that I love and care about. Let's find another way.
Right.
Things like that. So
Yeah, but I hear you on that. I was saying in regards to the whole relationship aspect, like if something happened.
relationship. What
No,
kind of
but
relationship
no,
that?
I'm saying like if your significant other came home and she
All
was
right.
angry or whatever, you would be like you would show an interest and be like, "Word, would that happen?" or something, but you wouldn't let that influence you to be angry with that person because that's something that happened to them. But I'm saying as far as showing a support system that you care, because if you don't do anything,
Oh, there's gonna be trouble.
exactly. So you know what I'm talking about.
That's
So
gonna be
that's what I'm
trouble.
saying. Like
You not angry or what?
you're
What?
gonna
No,
you're
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
do
I'm
you're going
upset.
yeah, you're going to show support for your significant other. There, like I said, there's caveats to that anger level, uh, of course. So that's what I was saying. So you're not going to sit there and just be like, "Oh, okay, well, why are you?" Because that.
Well, as a man,
Mhm.
our position as a man, not to be as emotional
Right, of course,
with
but
things.
you're still
So
gonna
we should
you're still
de-escalate her and
you
calm
may gonna
her
try
down.
to you may gonna try to de-escalate, but Sally did. Oh, word, Sally did that. Oh no, she didn't.
Maybe she was thinking this. Maybe Sally was thinking this when she did.
Yeah, you can say that, but you're still gonna be like, oh, word, like you gonna put that old word in to make it see. You in your mind, you mean like this ain't really that
Oh,
serious, but I'm gonna say
right,
the old word to just trigger the mind already that I'm here, I'm with you, but we gonna try to de-escalate this.
right,
So
right.
so she may be coming
That's
in.
our job. That's
They
our
may be
job.
coming in on a 9 and we're at a 2,
Right,
but we gotta seem like we're
right.
coming in on a 9 to bring it down
Get it down to a five. Absolutely, absolutely. No,
so
no, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
yeah,
Because
so yeah, because if you do that,
you do anything other than that, it might bring turmoil in your home.
right,
That's not what we want to do.
exactly. Oh man. But that's like the one instance where I'm just like, okay, like that is where you have to put on the facade to diffuse the situation, make it seem like you're coming in angry, but you're really just like, okay. I mean, it doesn't really impact me whatsoever, but I'm here to show support.
Well, the thing is, we are different.
Hmm.
We are different beings. We look at things differently. So, what she's passionate about, we have to consider it. We
Exactly.
definitely have to consider it and try our best to, de-escalate it, calm her down, and move forward. Not not put fuel on the fire in a
Exactly.
sense.
Exactly. But like I said, I just wanted to make sure I put that caveat out there because that I've seen that happen a couple of times where I'm like, oh, I already know how this is gonna play out. Not necessarily me, but it just
What do you mean? What do you
my
mean?
friends when they have their girlfriends, they're out and about with their girlfriends or whatnot. And they may have been drinking or something like that, and it was just like something may have happened or whatever, and she's on a 10, and I'm like, I already know what's gonna happen here, so I'm just going. And it just they're really good at what they do. They sit there and it's like, hey, they say key words to make it. It's like, hey, I'm with you, but we're gonna de-escalate this. They're in here with you on the 10, but they're actually at a 2, and they bring you down to the medium about a 5.
I mean, that's what we do. That's what we got to do. That's what we got to do. That's what. Now, when we're in a situation where you think you think the when it comes into question the freedom of speech, and I know we know we talked about this earlier. I just want to make sure we hit home this, and I just want to. Does your ethnic background play a major role in your freedom of speech?
I mean, yeah, of course it does. Like people are going to,
But it wasn't written that way.
right, but people are going to look at you regardless because they're brought up. uh, I know things may be changing now, but households are brought up certain ways depending on where you're born, what household you're born into, or whatever the case may be. You're raised a certain way to have these kind of views because those are the views your parents had. However, those views can change over time as you get older because of the experiences that you have interacting with people of different ethnicities. But
Right?
the initial thought process when you see those ethnicities may be what was instilled upon you when you were younger. So that of course is going to impact your how you talk to people or your speech or whatever. I mean, you may not care because at the end of the day it's whatever you were brought up on. And so you're going to say what you want to say. Just like the people of the other ethnicities are going to say what they want to say because they have a different viewpoint of whatever your ethnicity is or the other ethnicities they're interacting with or whatnot. So I'm hoping that answered the question
But-
of.
but- but- So when you look at it in that way, and the way you said it, so I'm brought up in an environment. This is my world
Mhm,
here. Somebody else doesn't live in this world. So they were, and I'm giving information about that other world,
right,
the other worlds. That's all I got to go on.
right.
Now, with social media and technology, I think there's less tolerance of so-called ignorance to
Mhm,
certain things, but you got to see what's being put out there too.
right.
So what's being put out there is if it's ugly and negative, uh, either that's going to prove what I was taught, or it's going to dispute what I was taught,
Right.
depending on where you're at. So, and this goes both ways. This goes every genre, religion, and everything else. So, you have to let's say, in other words, things are taught. You're not born with these traits. You're not born with these opinions. This
Right.
is part of life. You grow into this, you were taught certain things.
Mhm,
So to sit there and have tunnel vision and not open your eyes to the world and then speak on it, then I think that's where the accountability comes into play, where there's repercussions that come behind that because you have the opportunity to expand. You choose to stay in that tunnel.
well, wouldn't that fall into that false divide though, as far as people focusing on what they were taught about the other ethnicities, races, whatever, instead of like, hey, this is this is where we came from. It's your own faults or whatever the case may be. Um, and I think that could potentially be an issue. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some people that are aware of their own faults and everything like that, and they get my applause for them trying to work on it or whatever the case may be. But there's also an issue where it's too much, where to the point of where you're trying to do stuff on behalf of the other ethnicities that you may have wronged or whatever the case may be. And it's just, that's not something, I don't think that's a good way to go about it. Like, you should learn about the ethnicities, of course, learn about everything that surrounds you, of course, learn everything that you can. But you learn more by interacting with them than you trying to speak for them or do something on their behalf. I think that's the best way to go about it, instead of focusing on what's the negatives on that race or whatever. And I think I might have confused myself just a little bit here, but
No, that's
um I think that's the best way to go about it, is to just listen instead of trying to act. You learn more by listening than you do acting.
okay. By you talking, and I just thought of something. If if we looked, if people look at people, humans,
Mm,
you know, like people look at pets. You got different type of dogs. You got all different types of dogs, but a pet owner just and pet lovers and people who love animals, it doesn't matter what animal it is, and why we can't look at each other in that way.
mm,
It doesn't matter. It's if you abusing that dog, cat, whatever animal you're responsible for, or just out there, people are upset about that.
right.
People out there, you will suffer consequences behind hurting that animal. But we can't even look at each other in that way. We can't even look at each other as, hey, that's a human being. That's a person just like me. Breathes, has a mind, you know, has a family, potential family. We can't even look at each other like that, but we can look at a dog or a cat, an animal, with so much compassion that we lose focus on, you know, the guy down the street with a different skin color. It's it doesn't make sense. I know that's a totally different topic, but when you were saying that, it's like why people can have a pit bull, they can have a Rottweiler, they can have a little Chihuahua, whatever, but they still love animals. It doesn't matter what it is, but we can't love each other in
I
that way.
I think it has to do with the fact that the animal can't talk. I think if the animal could talk, I'm 99% sure it's the fact that the animal can't talk. Because if the animal could
The
talk and have
animal
its
could
own,
be mean. That animal could be mean. Animal could be trained to attack. That
mm,
animal could be, but they still have that compassion.
because the animal can't talk and express the thought process. So I think that's the major thing. Like, if the
So
animal could,
you shouldn't have, as long as you got freedom of speech, nobody want anything to do with
basically,
you.
basically, basically, I think that's what it boils down to. Because you're gonna say, because the animal's not gonna say anything that's gonna differentiate from what you like or don't
But
like.
what about the compassion that people have for
Mhm.
animals, but don't have that for people?
Because they don't talk. They don't talk. They follow the person wherever
That
they go, regardless of what's going on. Like, the animal is going to be a ride or die for their human until the end of time. until it's that time, until that's dog and the animal's time to go, or the human's gone. Either one. But since the animal cannot talk and express its own views on something that may be different from the owner, that
But you just talk about pet owners themselves. I'm talking about they worry about other animals out,
because the
outside of that.
animals can't talk. I don't know how many times I gotta say this. The animals can't talk, Jay. They don't have a thought process to be like, oh, I don't like such and such and such. I don't like when you give me, this little walk that we do every so often for 30 minutes. I want to go out for longer. They just do. Yeah, they may have a personality, but they don't have formulated opinions about things, or go out their way to on a platform to say something about something they may not like. They don't. They're man's best friend. They're just loyal. They're just there. they're there.
But I'm just putting it out
No,
there.
but I
That
hear what you're saying. It's just
right.
that's the major difference. Like, I'm 99% sure that is the major difference. Because if pets could talk, I'm sure they would we would all it would be mayhem and chaos.
Holiday pets.
It would be mayhem and chaos if pets could have formulated thoughts and could talk and everything like that.
Well, I've heard that they do have personalities and things like that. So, but that's I digress. But the thing is, you know, when you talk about freedom of speech and the comedic aspect of it, now they are being censored because you mentioned that earlier, and but they got more leeway to push things in a comedic um, arena where people can laugh at themselves, spite their beliefs, and spite their opinions.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I think that's being checked to what extent they can go as well
Yeah, one hundred
when it
percent,
comes to freedom.
100%. Like a lot of people, I feel a lot of people aren't able to laugh at themselves. I feel like it's like like a bully complex. It's like, oh, I can't handle you know my own issues or whatever, but I'm going to. Well, no, no, no. Let me circle back. Or let me rephrase that. Like, I'm getting talked about what's wrong with me or whatever, and I don't like it. So I'm going to go to the next person and say what's wrong with them or whatever, without it being taken into a funny context or anything like that. I can't laugh at myself for something that, it's funny or whatever. So I'm just going to turn that into anger and use it against the next person down the road or whatever the case may be. If that makes sense. I'm trying to I'm trying to say it in that way. It's like a trickle down effect. It's like this person was made fun of. They don't know how to handle being made fun of, and so now they're going to pick on the next person or whatever. It's like a bully picking on somebody weaker, and that weaker person is picking on somebody weaker than them, and then that weaker person is picking on somebody weaker than them. I guess that'd be the best way to kind of.
Where does that lead the comedian? Are they the bully or are they
No, no, no. They're just
the platform?
they're the platform, the observer.
Okay,
They're the
okay,
observer, just like, hey, I noticed such and such and such and such, and
right.
you're gonna have that one person in there and it's like that wasn't funny, and that wasn't
Oh,
funny,
absolutely,
that
absolutely.
wasn't funny, and then they go to another comedy thing or whatever, and then they're like, oh, I seen your show before, you did it X Y, and it's like, but nobody else here has seen it, so why are you
Got you,
you
got
trying to you trying to shut down the joke before anybody else gets the chance to experience it.
you. Right, and for me, I look at it like this: Tack. That look, you can't laugh at somebody else if you can't take it on yourself.
Right.
You got to learn to be. You got to learn to take it. If you can't take it, don't even go. Don't even come out there. You cannot honestly laugh at somebody else. That comedian says a joke about another group or another person. and you sit there and roll out of your seat crying, laughing, and then when it's focused on you or your group, oh, you're offended. Now, how that's hypocritical. You can laugh at somebody else, but you can't be laughed at. Nah, nah. That's where things are being censored when it comes to, oh, I can watch this comedian when he talks about everybody else. Only time I got a problem is when he talk about me.
Right. And that's the I, I think that's been an understood thing as far as that I've known, that I've grown up. If you have anybody in your group that is like a comedian or comedian esque, you know that everything is fair game. They're going to talk about everything.
Absolutely.
So you got to be ready for it. You can't sit there and laugh at everything else, but then when he says something about you, you're just like, oh well, I'm, you know,
Yeah,
I'm in my
yeah.
feelings or whatever. Um,
I laugh, but my wife don't laugh, so I gotta defend. You're, I mean,
right,
I'm not say, but that's kind of like it. I thought it was funny at first,
right.
but somebody else didn't.
I mean, it's just really weird. I guess in my years of being on this planet, I've just had a lot of people that have been like the comedian types, and younger, of course, you don't. Depending on your personality, I was more a little bit more serious when I was younger, so I kind of fell into that group where it's just like I don't think that was funny, but I never went out my way to like cancel anybody or anything like that. I was just like, okay,
No,
it
no,
wasn't funny, whatever.
it
But then,
wasn't funny. I didn't like. Yeah,
yeah,
I didn't laugh at that. That was.
but I've learned, to be more open about things. So now I find the things that they're talking about now is funny. It's like even if they are talking, I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
do
it's
do
funny.
that. Yeah, you're right. I do
No.
this. Okay, whatever.
It's
uh,
funny. Absolutely. Well, do the higher, education wise, does that open your mind to broader things and
yes, that's not
and
even
how you speak?
going to college 100. It opens your mind to so many different things. Like
I have to agree.
not even just you being on your own and recreational stuff and things like that, but I'm saying just interacting with different people, because 9 times out of 10 you're going to be in a dorm room with a roommate, somebody probably of a different ethnicity that you're going to have to deal with. So you better get on the bus and enjoy the ride, because you got a long 6 months that you got with that person that you're gonna have to get used to. You may not have anything to say a lot about to him, but you better learn to be like, hey, what's going on, man? Or say something to him, because it's gonna be awkward when you're both in there by yourself.
Not even just that, you got labs, you got classes where you got labs, you're working as a team, you got team projects. You got individual projects, but you got team projects. You got to work together. You got, different groups, female, males working together, trying to get a project. You get exposed to a lot of stuff, you're getting a lot of information, and you have opportunity to pick things that you didn't know about or you wouldn't be exposed to when you were in high school, or if you just stayed in your hometown and didn't explore. When you go to college, everything. When I was growing up, they said, if you want to know the world, everything is in a book. You got to just read. Just read. It's there. The world's open up to you now. You got the internet and all that stuff. You just go online and pull up. You could be in uh, China in a matter of a certain clicks, and you can learn everything about China. So we didn't have that. So we had books. We had to go to the book.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
so but like you say, college absolutely opens the door and allows you to make even better conversations and better topics about, makes you more I guess credible on what you're saying, and you probably come in there be less offensive because you got more information. You know more.
Right. And I wouldn't even advocate to go to college all 4 years. I would say go for like a semester, 6 months,
Mhm.
a year, if that. See if you like it first, because don't sign up for it
Right.
and you'd be like, oh, now I'm
Yeah,
on
it's
the
not
hook.
for everybody.
I'm on the
You're right.
hook
It's not
for
for everybody.
this exorbitant amount of money. Just go for like a semester. See if you like it. If you don't like it, find something else to do. You're still young at that point. You got plenty of time to do other stuff. But you should, I would say you should do it just for the experience, because there's going to be a lot of stuff that you're going to be exposed to that you probably would never be exposed to where you were at or where you were coming from. So that's all I can say as far as that part is the college experience. Um, but the one thing I will say is that, and this is one thing I think that kind of irritates me the most a lot of times, is the generalization. Is when people use the generalization, like when we're having a discussion, they say like you all or
Most,
or
most, yeah,
like, and I understand I may say it from
yeah,
time to time, but this is a podcast. I'm
right.
not talking directly to you per se, but like if it's being direct, if I'm having a conversation and someone says you all, and I'm like, you all who? I'm me. Like, what are you talking about? Like,
The
I'm my own
individual
person. So I don't know. It just makes me like tense up when I
cringe,
get, yeah. It's
cringe.
like when I get lumped in that you all category. It's like, no, we can address Tac as Tac. He's an individual, not part of the not part of the group, because I guarantee you I'm gonna surprise you. You try to sit there and lump me in with the majority. I guarantee it.
Because everybody's different. But every group falls into that.
Right.
Every group we have a reason or our reasoning to believe that everybody feels that way or everybody thinks that way. But it's not that's not the case. Everybody's different. It's based on your experience. Now you might hear a majority of people saying the same thing,
Mm,
but that doesn't mean that's how I think or that's how you think, Tag. I get it. And that is I try not to get offended by it, but initially it kind of catches me off guard because I understand what you're saying because I've run into that. And no, and not and 9 times out of 10, their assumption was wrong
right.
based on what I was thinking, how I look at it. So yeah, yeah, that grouping people into this category, I think we need to just deal with people in your circle accordingly. You know, you know. I know a lot of times they like to bring up scenarios like this such and such happened. What do you think? You know, do y'all think that way or is that how it is? And I'm like, where did you get that from? I think this way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, absolutely. But I appreciate them asking.
Right.
Don't go on the assumption that that's how it is. You bringing it to me tells me that I'm doing something right, that you feel comfortable enough that you can talk to me about it.
Right. Yeah, I'm trying to look past it, but it's just like one of those. It's like nails against the chalkboard kind of thing for me. When I hear it, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, I already know I'm different from majority of these people that you're talking about. So why are you even bringing it up? Like,
But they need to hear it. They need to hear that. And the fact that they brought it up to you, they feel comfortable enough to talk to you about it
mhm,
without, because a lot of times people just keep it and say, that's how it is.
right. Right, no, and I understand that. It's just one of those. I don't know.
No,
It's
I get it. I
one
get it.
of
I
those
get it.
things, man. I'm just like,
I
please.
get it. I get it. Yeah. when something happened major and people start doing things, they're like, "Man, do you feel that way? You see me out there?" I mean,
Basically, that's basically
I
how.
mean,
Basically, that's basically what I think. It's like, really?
so I get it, but they need to hear it, and I'm glad I left an impression where they feel they're comfortable enough to come to me and ask me those things because I wouldn't want them to get the wrong information or think that's how it is.
Right.
Not everybody's that way. Not everybody's this way. Not everybody thinks that way. But we still wear the same uniform. But not everybody's that plays on that team.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, and yeah, yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's exactly
yeah.
it. There's nothing else to really say about that. But like this, with this whole, even the individualism, but and the freedom of speech thing, it even trickles down. It trickles down even to like things that we do, like this podcast.
That's right.
Like
That's
this,
true.
this we have to play by certain rules because we don't own the platform. We can't say what we want to say because this video may be demonetized or we may get flagged, get a copyright strike, and then that's the end of the channel. And this, that, and the third. We have to play by the rules. There's certain things you can and can't put in your title when you're making the video, et cetera, et cetera. Um, so there are limitations depending on where you're at or where you're trying to produce your content. If you have your own platform, like you physically own it, or it's something that isn't provided to you by another source, then yeah, you can say whatever the hell you want, like scream
That's
it to
right.
the mountaintops. There's nothing nobody can do. But when you're on another platform or another platform that's owned by somebody else, you have to play ball by their rules.
That's right.
Otherwise, you will suffer the consequences. Um,
And you're not bigger than that group
exactly.
that owns it. So no matter how big you get, they can shut it down.
Yeah, they can shut you down. Yeah, you may have enough
Yeah.
monetary income outside of the
Mhm.
of the platform, but then that it's a domino effect. You get canceled here. Somebody's like, "Oh, what happened? Oh, why did he get shut down? Oh, because he said X. Oh, this person's like that. So let me not buy anything that this person provides out. Out.
So it's
Out.
accountability.
Right.
You're accountable. You're accountable for what you say. You're accountable for what you say,
Exactly. So yes,
especially on this platform, right? I
exactly.
mean,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we haven't really had any issues, but just a couple of like wordings and things like that. Like no serious issues like copyright strikes and nothing like that. We're squeaky clean. But it's just trying to learn how to maneuver the algorithm and get the video out to more people and everything like that. So, but like I said, and I think we talked about this at the beginning. People can you can say whatever you want to say, but you got to be ready for you got to be ready for the
for the
consequences
consequence,
of what you said. And like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not a big fan of saying something 10 years ago, then it being brought back up when you're 10 years older and you have more knowledge of what's going on in the world and
right?
everything like
Right.
that. But if you're going to say it in that moment in time, I would say in the span of 6 months, then you got to be ready to own it. six
Right.
months,
And you
six
can
months to a
stand
year.
on
I say that's the window.
it. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not gonna sit there and hold something against you that you said 5 to 10 years ago. It's like that's in the
You got
past.
more information now. That 10 years older, you got 10 years worth of knowledge
Right.
that you had, now than you had before. So absolutely. That's why I'm the know and you think you know.
He has to get one. I'll give him this one. That was an easy dunk for me, but we'll let it slide since it's the holidays. I feel like being being giving since it's Thanksgiving
Thank
this
you.
week.
Like it's time of giving. It's time of giving. Right.
And I don't think I don't. I mean, as far as well, let's let's play
It's
a
going to
game.
become more restrictive.
Let's play.
And
No, I was just gonna say let's play a game. Let's play a game. You and granted, I just want your opinion because you may not. We're in the year 2099. Okay. Um. And well, you already told me your answer, so you think it's going to be more restrictive.
absolutely.
Hmm.
It's going there. It's heading that way.
Hmm. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think there's gonna be a planet here for us to be more restrictive in 2099. And so there might not be a planet.
Silence. It's going to be
It's gonna
silence.
be crickets. That's all you might not be crickets. You're not gonna hear anything because there might not be a planet here. But I think it unless something dramatic happens in like the next 20 years or so, I think with the path that we're currently on is it's going to it's going to be more restrictive. Well, it's going to attempt to be more restrictive, but people are going to combat it, i.e., comedians and or your political figures or people in places of power
Underground,
or that too.
underground.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, it's gonna be.
Um. So that I mean that's just where it is as far as the freedom of
It,
speech.
and you think about it, if it's restrictive, I mean, blatantly restrictive, where this is a freedom that that the forefathers of this country who founded this country and wrote that in, we've lost that. What about the other things that we lost by that time? If this is restrictive, what else is going to be restrictive? What else? Other Well, we can see it in other things as well. The
Right.
restrictions are coming into play. So
You know what I thought was a possibility, and I know we're getting a little bit off topic, but we're kind of at the end of the podcast anyway. You remember The Purge, that movie The
yeah,
Purge, where it's like I think it's every year or something, like one day a year, people can just go out and just do whatever. And like they just
right,
fight each other, kill each other to dwindle down the
right,
population. I was like, I can actually see that happening, like something like that, like
yeah.
being a possibility, like maybe 50 years from now or something like that. I was like, it would not surprise me if there was something like The Purge. One day out the year, people would just go out and just
To
shoot,
get it out
kill.
this system,
Yeah,
get it
would
yeah.
not surprise me. Would not surprise me at all.
The idea came from somewhere.
I mean, you
I
seen
remember
the other.
Star Trek. You remember Captain Kirk with the little flip,
Mm.
radio and
Yeah,
say,
y'all thought that would
that
never
was
happen, and then you
it
got.
never happened. Next thing you know, you got cell phones now.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody got a cell phone. So
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
the other ones are like, what was it? What's the one where like all of North America, majority of North America, except for like the southern states, froze over.
ice froze over.
Yeah, I was like, I can see that happen. Like, there's a lot of these movies. I'm like, I can actually see this stuff happening. So I'm just like, let me go ahead and get my get my stuff ready
It
just
lost
in
a little
case.
gear.
Yep, get my stuff ready. But yeah, that.
But it's people out there doing that,
Oh, I know.
preparing for
I know they've been preparing for the last 50 years. I get it. I understand, but you gotta prepare maybe for like a little bit and then continue. You can't sit there and be paranoid for your whole life, but
right.
just prepare for a little bit. Keep yourself a raid shelter or whatever you want to call it. I forgot what the term is, but a bunker, like, and keep one and have it stocked up with some food. Change it out every couple of years because it does go bad. You can't sit there and have it for 10 years and then when you need it, it's all spoiled.
Right.
But you can't keep Twinkies in there because they don't spoil. That's a fun fact I learned a long time ago. Twinkies don't spoil.
I don't want to eat Twinkies there because
Yeah.
something keeping it around that long,
Right.
whatever.
But
So
but yes, we hope you all enjoyed today's episode. There won't be one next week. I'm gonna be out of town. I think we're both. Well, actually, we're both gonna be out of town.
That's right.
There will be a couple episodes that week of basically the week after Thanksgiving. There'll be like 2 episodes that'll be posted. Um, Outside of that, you all have a great holiday, and we will see you. I think that's the first week in December that we do another
Yes,
recording. Yeah. So that first week in
December.
December, we'll be back, and we'll be back on track to do
Maybe fourth. Yeah.
something like that. It's something like that. It's in December. That's all I know. We come back in December.
All right.
Um,
And we have a Christmas special.
mm, but
Sorry, I'm just
but anyway, is there anything else you want to tell the folks out there before we get out of here?
Thanksgiving. Be safe and take care.
Do all your shopping
Be
from home.
careful.
Don't wait in those lines for Black Friday.
Good tip.
Yeah.
All right.
Until then, we're out of here. Later, everybody.